own a Call of Cthulhu game that's single player or 2-player. I can't remember the name of that one though, but it has like adventures and you can buy it.
Sounds like a Call of Cthulhu game. It's
Yeah.
like, I found this game I don't remember buying. It's a Call of Cthulhu game. I just don't remember it.
I played it, but I don't remember whether it was with myself or whether they were real or not.
Yes.
Welcome to SideQuest Source Season 2, where Steffi presses the wrong button for sound effects.
Or does he?
Actually, that kind of fit. I want to apologize in advance to everyone who's like listening to Season 2 and now they're going to be having an excess of sound effects in this because I'm just so happy with playing with this thing.
He's got 8 buttons and he's not afraid to press them.
Yeah.
And none of them are labeled.
No.
Oh shit! I forgot to label. Well, I'm slowly learning. I know this one is the wah wah, and this is the applause. That was actually a lucky guess for me. I'm starting to remember where everything is.
Can we get a badumts? Hey, he's on the track today. Mm-hmm. So there's a game we all want to talk about. We've played it online.
Oh yeah.
It's not out yet physically, but you can try it out on Tabletop Simulator
and Tabletopia.
It's called Agamonia.
Yes, and it will be coming out on Kickstarter at some point in the near future. Lead designer is Max Wickstrom, and it has some great artists in there, and the art is amazing. It's impeccable.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I really highly suggest everyone go check out their website, which is, I think it's Agemonia.com. It's also published by Lautapelit.fi. Let me just...
Yeah, the game is being made here in Finland, so lucky us.
Suomen mainittu. Torilla tavataan.
Yeah, Agamonia.com. There you'll get like really excellent background history. You'll be able to get information when their Kickstarter goes live, and they'll have links to the intro games or the demo games that they have, and you also get to see some really good videos. And it's really like the intro games that we played. This is one of the games I played with him as well. Personally, we were at a bar and he like just brought out all the stuff, and it was still like in prototype mode. And already at that point, I was like, man, this looks really good. This is like really high production value. And then we played on Tabletop Simulator, the first 2 scenarios, and we had a blast.
It was good. It was really good.
It was really fun. It seems like an evolution from Hero Quest.
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, for me, like the first thing that, stuck in my mind, like the first time I played it, and especially playing with you guys online, was that like this is the closest thing to playing like Baldur's Gate that I've ever gotten with a board game. Because we all have our characters, and we have this board, and each scenario has its own board, and that might not necessarily be always the same board. It might change throughout the game because the story progresses as you play, and just like the sense of freedom that we had, but still you're feeling like you're playing in a story. It's really good.
Well, let's take a step back. The game itself is a cooperative crossover between a board game and a role-play game. It has elements of a light role-play game while still having the feel and strategy of a board game. It's cooperative. Is it 1 player playable, or is it 2 to 4?
It's 1 to 4.
1 to 4. So yeah, you can play solo or you can play in a team of 4 cooperatively. You each take control of a character through this unfolding story in this wonderful, colourful, exciting and different fantasy world that they've made.
It's totally unique. Mm-hmm. I really love the world they've created.
Yes, I mean, it's always nice to encounter interesting fantasy worlds that pretty much nowadays simply dare step away from the archetype set up by Tolkien.
Yeah.
There's no elves or orcs.
No, I mean, you have species that kind of remind you of it. What I like about the game is that they've gone totally different. I mean, this starts reminding me of those really good old 80s kind of fantasy movies that decided to go totally different. Like, okay, we have The Dark Crystal. It's a fantasy movie.
Yep.
Maybe with a little bit of sci-fi because it takes place on a different planet, but it's still fantasy, and you have its own creatures, its own lore and background. Same thing goes for Labyrinth. I mean, okay, they do have trolls, fairies, and goblins and stuff, but it's still has its own look and feel, and that's what I really like. And this game really is bringing that back to board gaming or to fantasy role playing, which I really like.
The whole fantasy genre in general, in my opinion, would benefit from simply having more stories and worlds that are not based on European mythology or the works of Tolkien, for example.
Yeah, not everything has to have elves and orcs in it.
Yeah, elves and orcs and like some Celtish symbolism and Nordic gods and what. It's better to instead have this your entirely own thing with like semi-aquatic squid people and like owl people and stuff. And
I was a raven person. Yeah. I mean, I went into the game completely cold. I'd not read anything about it. And just by reading the introduction to the scenario and the color text that explains what's going on in different events, you start to get a picture of the world right away. So it's new, but it doesn't feel off-puttingly alien.
That is true, yeah, because it's still a well-told story. So you still get into the story and you use all these completely new terms for like, the names of species and things, but it doesn't do unnecessary world building. It doesn't have like, and now on a side note, here's the history of the Raven people. No, it's not. It's a Raven person.
I want to still say that there is a lot of lore and stuff already on their website that goes into a lot of detail about this. It's not required, but it just enriches the experience when you do take your time in reading all this stuff. But that's what's the beauty of it. It doesn't require you to know this stuff. It doesn't go like, okay, now we're going to have to go into all this stuff. Like it doesn't go into the J.R.R. Martin kind of like, okay, now we're going to have to explain the whole history of this cup this character is drinking from. It doesn't have anything pertaining to the story, but I'm going to now waste 50 pages explaining who created this cup and why it's so important and why we're never going to see it again. In this, it's just you have this great, very accessible world where things are strange enough that you want to learn more, but you don't need to if you don't want to.
You can jump right in with the story.
Yes, because I love the fact that also in the intro of the game, it mentions the fact, okay, like there's all this like background information available at this address, read it. Please read it because it will really enrich your experience of the game, the game world. But it's not necessary. None of us read it. We just played the game, and that alone was so interesting. Well, I mean,
but yes, before we started playing.
Yeah, I'm like me and Tom. We came in cold. We didn't know anything. Like, all right, cool. I just like decided. Oh, I guess I'll be purple. What am I? I'm a squid person. I'm a wizard apparently. Okay, let's go with this. I'm a squid wizard.
A squizzard.
A squizzard.
I don't think you were a squizzard. Were you?
It was some.
I thought you were like a cat person or something.
No.
The paladin was the cat person. There was the rogue raven, cat paladin, and then there was like the stone fighter.
Yeah, so like
that was me. Yeah,
so like stone elemental.
Yeah, you were this
creature.
Guy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And what's nice is that there's 4 characters. They each have nice character art, so you can look at them and kind of realize, okay, this is the kind of character they're going to be playing. And they are all different, very different in terms of rule mechanics, even down to movement. I mean, the board itself, you have this beautifully illustrated board which is divided up into segments.
And it's different every scenario.
It's different board every scenario, and moving from one segment to another costs a point of movement. But how your characters move, how they gain extra movement is different for every character. It's not in a complicated way, but movement management is one of the big parts of the game. And for some characters, it's quite easy to zip around the board. Other characters have to plan their moves more carefully, even multiple turns in advance. And everything is written in such a way that it's a super easy mechanic to use, but every character is different, and every character has their strengths and flexibilities. And planning what the team is going to do is a really positive cooperative playing event.
And I got to, exactly. I have to say that like the planning with your friends is what makes the game really good, because there is still an initiative. You pull the card and it like kind of changes who gets to go first. Sometimes the slowest person gets to go first. So it kind of depends each round, like who has what initiative. But the character board that you have is very, very intuitive. The whole game is very intuitive. I don't think we actually looked at the rule book very many
I
times.
think we looked at it twice, and in both cases, it was like the obvious way was the right way to go, but we just wanted to check.
Yeah, we just wanted to double check, and that's what made it so great. And then what I remember speaking with the designer, and he was explaining then between every scenario, or then at some point in the game, each character still has their own story arc. So while there is downtime between the games, your character still is living a life, and you have to pick what happens in their own personal stories.
And that brings us to another really cool point, was that these are levelable characters.
Yeah, exactly.
So in that way, it is very much a role-playing, pen and paper role-playing game, except there's no pen and no paper. But you're playing the game, and depending on your actions, your character gets access to, say, items and things. And then later on, you might have to give that item to someone else, or you keep it to make use of it. So yes, you collect gear, and you unlock new skills and stuff. So in that sense, it's a very living character in a living world.
Yeah, and I really like that. Like, I remember when we were playing the first scenario where there was the big flood happening, and we were inside the tavern, and like, what are we going to do? Who's going to save that person? And there was like, screams coming from behind the bar, and my character I was playing the big rock guy. He walks outside, and there's like a family on a boat, so of course I'm like, okay, I gotta save them. And by doing that, it changes the board to something else because of what I did, but that also helped later on in us completing another thing, because now we had another exit route.
Yeah,
where we could save people.
Save people too.
Yeah. And I really like that, and especially then, like in the second scenario, then when there was like that fallen down tree, and we had to start figuring out how to chop that down. Unlike normal board games, when you look at the board and you start strategizing how we're going to do this, I think when we were playing the game, we were figuring it out like a role playing game. Okay, how are we going to bring this thing down? Because it didn't feel like when we were playing that we were constrained by rules. We were just given rules like, this is how you move and this is how you react, and then you go to these places and then things happen. Kind of like Betrayal at the House on the Hill. You have a card that says like, okay, in this area you have to take a story card from this specific story card, and then it explains. But that was so cool because you don't know what to expect. You don't know how they're gonna figure it out for you. It's great.
Yeah, I like that, because you look at the board and it looks sort of obvious, because when you look at the gaming board, you of course can see the entire board, but at the same time there was hidden information there. You had to get to a certain place so that we could look at a certain card, which then explains, what happens here in this spot, and then you can figure out, okay, well, you look at the board and there's a fallen down tree. We're leading a wagon somewhere. Okay, we need to do something about the tree, but first we have to explore the tree and around it to figure out what can we actually do to get this tree out of the way.
Yeah. I just really liked it, and that just the idea of having, I don't remember how many scenarios there's going to be, like, or how many campaign missions, but like at least 20, 30, maybe up to 50. I don't remember exactly what the right number was, but just to know that there's this massive campaign in front of you that you can play.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very good entryway for people who are interested in role-playing games, but are a bit scared away by the whole rolling character sheets and needing someone to be a dungeon master and whatnot, because you don't need a dungeon master. You're all working together
exactly
against the board, with the board, and being part of an epic adventure. People level up and stuff.
People who are maybe afraid of like using their imagination or accessing them. Maybe some. I mean, I don't want to say there's people without imagination on the planet. I believe everyone has some sort of imagination.
Yeah, but not everyone wants to play act.
Yeah, not everyone wants to play actor. Not everyone, can. Not everyone maybe wants to or knows how to have that all run in their head. They need something more concrete to follow.
Yeah.
To begin with, at least. And this is a really great game that way, because it's mostly all on the board and then all explained to you. So it's really a lot of fun.
Yeah, very easy to access.
Yeah, very easy to access. And I just really love it. And going back to the player boards and how we do actions like movements. I mean, you had a maneuver, and then was it an action?
A maneuver and an action, yeah.
And you had to declare your maneuver first, because depending on what kind of maneuver you took was like, you could either take one that allowed you to take like, or was it maneuver actually? Either way, you had to declare one thing at the start of your turn, and that determined, or will you be able to take actions such as attacking and things this turn, or are you simply moving around faster?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, declare that first, and then you.
Yeah, I think it was just then one maneuver you picked, or then you could do two maneuvers and you spend. We're horrible.
I know that's Star Wars.
Yeah, that's Star Wars.
You go to the Edge of the Empire. We've been playing that one.
Stuff. But this is more of us just talking about Agamonia. We're not doing a review or anything here. We're just saying like this is an awfully fun game. But what I really liked was that you have the stack of mana.
Yeah.
Or life force or whatnot. Yeah. And that stack also is your your health points. And you can when you start pushing your character, you start using from that stack your mana. And then after a while you can kind of rest and add back to your stack. And if you start getting damaged, then that stack turns red. And then you can't put it back into your stack
before you heal it.
And I thought that's so economical.
Yeah, because you combine the action economy, sort of like action points.
Yeah.
With your health, but so that it's also then your health level actually then is seen in the amount of actions you can take. So getting damage doesn't allow you to continue running around. Like nothing happened.
And if I recall, it also affects your dice pool.
Yeah, you can use mana to enhance dice rolls and skill checks.
Yeah.
So you're doing a lot of things with one set of tokens, and that's really nice.
And they all worked.
Yeah. And it all worked so well.
Really well, yeah, because you had the action to like you had to take one maneuver that allowed you to move faster if you spend some of these energy points, mana points. But or you can take an action that allowed you to attack, or to then meditate a little bit, so you get some energy back, or some self recuperation, which allows you to then heal the tokens from being red back to blue. So then next turn you can put them back in try to get them back into your
mana stack.
In your mana stack, and that was cool because the thing is, it's also a really cool system, the game itself, because it very much looks like you could very easily. I'm hoping that they'll end up having this amazing cool story arc with these characters, and then they can make like a new adventure with new characters.
Yeah. I mean, the use this system for like something else. I mean,
it's very simple.
Yeah, I would love to have, like I can't wait to kickstart this game. I've already told him directly. I'm like, when you go on Kickstart, I'll be the first one there going for the all-in package with everything. And but I would love to have a sci-fi based game. With this as well, because I can just see how fun that would be to have different maps with like asteroids and space bases and different planet surfaces. Oh man, I would love to write that.
Yeah, because it is very story based. So essentially, I mean, they could then eventually, hopefully, they'll work together with some licensing deals, like a Call of Cthulhu adventure game. You're 4 adventures. You go in that one house, and then depending on how that goes, that will affect your next scenario or next map.
Well, what I'm going to say is, when we were playing the game, which was really nice, all the narrated bits, some of the narrated bits, they had voice recordings of. Was it from the website or was it an app?
I think these were directly in Tabletop Simulator. But I think you get them on their website as well.
Okay.
No, you do. You do get them on their website.
Yeah, and they were really nice. So obviously there were some cards with text on that you'd read, but the larger story parts, if you wanted to, you could read it off the card, or they had it read, and it was quite a good voice actor.
Yeah, with like background sound effects and stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to say if they want someone with a nice English accent to do it, of course I'm available. But and I can even do it in my sexy voice or my non-sexy voice, up to you. It's to take, how would you want to play Agamonia? With the candles on, and take it nice and easy. Your character slides the knife between the ribs of your opponent. Their last dying breath sighs out as you savor the kill. Yeah, we could play like that. That would be fun. But lovely game. I'm really looking forward to seeing the next next episodes, how the story continues. There were 2 scenarios available when we played it online, and it left me going, yeah, I can play more. And the scenarios are nice and short, that you can play one by itself, or you can play 2 or 3 back to back to make an evening's game of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine.
Now I remember. So the whole thing was that I was asking, is this kind of like a legacy game? And will it be then the end in the end? And he was like, well, no, not really. You can, pack it all up and then play it again if you want. And I was like, well, don't you know how the game ends and stuff? Well, there's going to be different ways to getting to the end. But when you play a video game, you know how it ends, but you still play it again, don't you? If it's a good one. I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. It's like it's not the end result, it's the journey. Because part of me wishes that we could play Betrayal Legacy again. Because there was...
Though not in the way we did it.
Not in the way we did it. I mean, there was unfortunately a couple of occasions where it kind of went into this monotonous round where we just pushed through it, and Max was always the bad guy in it. But
I kept on kicking your ass.
Yeah, but still, when it got to the end game and we started finding out like what the big story is, then it started getting really good.
Yes, I mean, like even the parts where it started getting a bit tiresome, and then there was the one unfortunate time when we had the one instance that just like was jarringly different from the rest of the
alien one.
The X-Files episode.
I didn't like that one. That really like broke the rhythm. But also, I mean, getting to that, because I think we were too greedy. We decided we're gonna play like the House on the Hill, the Legacy, in like one weekend.
Yeah.
And we sat down and we literally played for it like multiple days straight, and that
it's too much.
It's too much.
It's too much. It killed it a little bit.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
But now looking back on it, it was actually quite.
It was a really cool, fun experience, but one that I not want to repeat.
No, I don't want to repeat it. Now, next time when we play a Legacy game, we're going to do it that we play one.
We ration it out.
Yes, we ration it once or twice a weekend, and do it, because I'm telling you, if we would have done it with Legacy, with that game as well, then I'm pretty sure we would have enjoyed it even more.
Oh yes, definitely.
But that was still a pretty freaking good weekend.
That was fun.
What I will tell you, and this is entirely justifiable from our viewpoint, and I'm not going to put the spoiler in, but that first scenario just blew our minds so hard, we thought we just have to play this again and again.
Yeah, that was...
It broke us to the point it was like, we need more of this. We were instantly addicted, and that's why we played so much of it.
Oh, yeah, you mean the first mission?
The very first scenario.
Oh, yes, that was a beautiful first mission, and definitely it's one that requires... It'll be really hard to only play the first mission.
Yeah,
the first mission, you're like...
That's the Bond beginning.
Yeah.
You play that and then roll credits, or roll the beginning intro
and
thing.
Then you play the actual game.
And then the actual. I just remember like later on when it's like, look under the box, and we're like, what?
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
Yeah,
that's great. But like,
it was super fun though.
But taking it back to Agamonia, I'm looking forward to something similar. Playing this, that I feel like once you start getting into it, and we've played through one campaign or one mission and the next one, and then we're like, oh, you can see all the different stuff where it might lead. And I've heard that there are different paths. There were already in the missions that we played that you could see there was different. Oh, sorry. There was different endings.
Yeah, very strongly implied that your choices would have consequences.
Yeah, and I think that'll be what puts this game different from the rest, because I mean, of course, I think the biggest, I won't say competition, but the biggest thing this game will be like compared to might be something like Gloomhaven and Frosthaven, which is quite similar. It's more of a dungeon crawl combat RPG kind of game which we have yet to play, and I'm pretty sure we will, but now they're coming up with a PC version which is pretty much essentially the same thing, and I thought like, well, let's see which one we want to do.
Yeah, well, the Rona is happening, so it might be better to do the non-physical.
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Mm-hmm. But that being said, playing this, I really like. I just really like the world. I really want to explore this world and see what there is.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
And whilst I agree that the world building and the artwork is gorgeous and makes me want to play more, for me what really appeals to it is the rule mechanic. This is a really nice, simple yet flexible game to play that requires a high level of cooperative strategic thinking. So I want to find out what happens with the story as well, but the mechanic of just playing the game, of working things together. I mean, we played 3 players. I want to go back and do those 2 scenarios again with CJ joining us, and
definitely.
do it as 4 players, and to see if we can get the bits that we missed the first time.
Yeah,
that would be good.
Yeah, that's very true.
And I mean, I was lucky enough to see the prototypes of the models as well, and the models are gorgeous.
Nice.
So, I mean, the production quality of this game is, I mean, if the production quality is going to be already only as good as the prototype, then I'll be more than happy anyway. But I'm pretty sure they're going to still, ramp it up from there. And this is looking like something really big, a really good game on the horizon. So please, everyone, have a look. Go to Agemonia.com. Check out their world, read about the game. You can also see it on BoardGameGeek.com. Tabletop Simulator, Tabletopia. Try out the scenarios for yourself. I'm pretty sure you're not going to be disappointed. We really recommend this game.
Oh, definitely. And that was
100%.
Agamonia is an Agemonia.
Yeah.
Yeah. And still about the rules and the whole how it felt playing it. It feels like this is also a game where the designers really thought about. Well, I mean, consider the design philosophy of it's not about when there's nothing more left to add, but when there's nothing more left to remove from the game. Because it was very simple and it worked very well. I mean, like there was like, how about we have health and mana and stuff. How about we just make all that one stack?
Yeah,
the rules are very simple. Like, okay, you can move this many spaces. How can we determine this and this, and in the most simple way possible? Okay, like all the squares on the map have dots on them.
Yeah, you know that this guy is like when he designed it, that he's played board games before.
Yeah,
and
like good design philosophy here.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember when I saw that you could change the board. One can say like, oh well, that's a gimmick. And in my opinion, gimmicks are fine.
Mechanic.
It's a mechanic. But there are many games where that sort of thing is its main mechanic. But this game incorporates them as if it was just another part of the game. And that's what makes it so lovely, because it also it just creates this kind of world or this experience where anything is possible. Anything can happen. The board can change. The rules can change. Everything is just really like fluid. And also, as you were mentioning, like streamlining all the rules and making them so that, you can combine certain things. There's also very little downtime for you, because you're following what other people are doing, because we're all playing together, all making sure that we're all doing things at the right time. So if it's not your turn, it still technically is, because you're helping the other people out. It's really great.
Yeah, it's probably cooperative. Even when you're not actively doing anything with your character, you're still being part of the decision making and planning with your friends that you're playing with.
Yeah,
and that was really fun. And the way they mentioned that anything can happen, because I really liked the fact that we were playing this, and the game has obviously built also around the concept like what you see is what you get when you. Because there was a card and it was flipped, and then it's okay, put this on this part of the board. Now that replaces that part of the board. Like, okay, excellent. So the rules are always on the board.
That's true.
So that you don't have to worry about the rule book being there, because the rules aren't this ephemeral set of rules that you have to keep in your head outside of the game board. It's on the board. What's happening on the board is real. If it's not there, it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, and now I remember another thing in the second scenario, and this is what's so great about the how he's even developed the scenarios, is that each scenario teaches you more of the rules.
Yeah.
So the first scenario is very straightforward and stuff, and you're like, okay, great, I know this. And then in the second one, then he incorporates more rules with more skills, and your characters are better. And then in that one, it started showing like how enemy mobs work. And
initiative started mattering.
Yeah, initiative started mattering, and then their artificial intelligence, how they reacted to you. And it really felt like these things are like we're not controlling them. Something else is controlling them.
Yeah, every turn you draw a card which gives a set of priorities for the enemy models. So, if you could draw a card and you'll say, in this turn, the models will act before you and they will do this. And then next turn, they'll do something different. So there wasn't this predictability. I mean, you could see what they were going to do, and you could say, okay, they're going to follow this rule, they're going to go here, they're going to do this. But you couldn't predict in advance exactly what they're going to do. There was this uncontrolled element that meant you were always on your toes, trying to figure out the safest way to do things.
Yeah. So and it was cool that the enemy mobs weren't always mindlessly running at you, waiting to be slaughtered.
Correct.
But because there was a chance that they'd actually avoid you this turn. They're like, oh no, maybe it's getting a bit too risky for them. Or they'll approach, but they won't engage.
Oh, and the same with the NPC, the cart that we're doing, because it also reacts differently depending is there bad guys around, and such. It was I thought it was really, really cool.
But the instructions were still really simple to follow, and that made it a joy to play.
So yeah. Go check it out. Agamonia, coming on Kickstarter soon.
Ish.
To an internet near you.
That was, a fun game.
Yeah.
Should we segue into something else?
Well, that just reminded me, I mean, it's not something we can really talk about because we haven't actually played it, but we should, because we now played essentially a prototype teaching version of one game, and another one I really want to play is Frostpunk, the board game. I've looked at it once, and I just fiddled around with it, because it's also on Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah.
And I found it there, and it was free from the workshop to download it and to just try it out and try to play. And it looked very promising, and also it would be a very nice cooperative, everyone against the board kind of situation.
Yeah, because that is an excellent game in on itself.
Oh, I mean, that
PC game.
Yes, but we shouldn't. We're a tabletop podcast. We shouldn't.
No, we shouldn't.
We shouldn't. We mustn't. It's a fantastic game.
We should have like a separate podcast of just talking video games. But anyway, I digress, or we digress.
As we usually do.
As we do. It looks like a really fun game. I had it on Kickstarter for a while, but then I had to choose between that and I think Life, and I decided to choose Life.
Yes.
Yeah. And choose Life. Celebrate culture.
Anyway, fuck nature.
Fuck nature.
That was the one.
I'm sorry, that's an inside joke. I might have to cut that out. But
leave it in. Yeah. It's a stupid joke that I can't even remember where it started from.
I think we were watching National Geographic or something.
Yeah,
someone
misheard something.
Yeah. Anyway, as a board game, it looks really great. It had lots of little pieces, and I love fiddly bits, and I love pieces.
Yeah.
And
lots of cute.
It looks like a really fun game. I'm hoping that it creates that sensation that you get in the video game.
That sense of urgency.
That sense of urgency. That sense of
hard choices. Something's going to get sacrificed.
Yeah, really hard choices, and you just have to somehow. You have to draw a line for yourself and go okay, I will not go beyond this line. I will, no matter what. That's how I survived that game, where I decided I will never endanger children. Everything else is fine. I'll do all the hard choices. If people have to amputate their legs and put robot legs instead, fine. That's okay. But kids, they gotta be kids and be happy and treated well.
Oh, I chose survival. The kids worked.
Yeah. That's what's so great about that game. See, we're talking about the bloody video game.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, compared to Agemonia, the little bit that I saw of the board game itself, it had more cards and more complexity, and I really liked Agemonia's simplicity and streamlinedness. It worked, and it seemed like it would work just as well in all kinds of various different circumstances, campaigns with different characters. And the Frostpunk board game, because it's a resource management, survival against the board, cooperative game, but it still tried to bring in all those PC game elements that were there's you have to take some you have to some resource. I mean some research stuff, and nature might affect some people. The morale of the people might affect things. So that there was a bunch of cards there, and now I'm getting kind of nervous. Oh no, is it will it work as well as it like it? Because the board itself looks like it could be a streamlined, cool game, but then those complexities.
Yeah, that is the problem, because I mean, unlike Agamonia, which is a totally unique property, it's a unique game, unique rules, unique world. Everything about it is unique, which makes it great. And unfortunately, what we're seeing more and more, some companies know how to do it well, most companies don't, is that you're starting to see licensed games more and more again. And, like Frostpunk the board game, it might be good. It looks great. It has production value. We have yet to try it, so we can't really put our opinions on what it's like. Yeah. But there is that risk.
Yeah. It had a lot of cards. They might be useless complexity, like cool PC elements. Don't always translate well to board games.
Exactly. Crusader Kings, one of our favorite PC games ever.
An atrociously bad board game.
Atrociously bad.
I've always looked at the Civilization board game and thought, how the hell can you turn a game that expansive and that detailed into a board game without it being horrifically over-managed? And yeah, sometimes you just work on your own IP. There are some games that work really well on a computer, would make a terrible board game. And there are some games that work amazingly as a board game that you would not want to run as a computer game.
Yeah. And like Civilization as a board game, the only way I can see it working is Risk with upgrade cards.
Yeah, and that's not what I want.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It sounds like Risk with upgrade cards. It doesn't sound fun at all.
Risk is amazing. Actually, Risk with upgrade cards could be really cool, but that also sounds like the game's...
Well, there is...
Well, the game already takes 4 hours, so now it would take 10.
But there's Risk Legacy. That's the first Legacy game that came out.
Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah, so you play Risk in the Legacy system. But no, don't knock it, because people are saying... I mean, because of Risk Legacy, that's why we have Legacy games now.
Oh, so that's where they got the name from.
I don't know. I think someone coined Legacy as a system.
I think that was the Bourne films.
Okay. Oh,
thank you.
That doesn't count because you had to demand it.
Yeah, exactly.
Those were pity laughs.
Those were pity laughs.
No, I reserve the right to demand button presses. Steffi gets to choose the button, but I can make him press it. Exactly.
Poor Steph.
That backfired.
Oh, speaking of backfires.
No, don't do it.
We're in an enclosed space.
We just had a curry, man. Come on.
Yeah, then keep it in.
Yes.
Like not how it works.
Yes, it is.
No.
We'll get the super glue if we have to, and then it'll keep it in forever.
That's what it was originally designed for.
Yes. Gluing human flesh.
Skin.
Skin is flesh, yes.
Skin is not flesh. Skin is its own organ.
Oh. So, I actually, as a non-native speaker, so I've always thought like flesh is just all meat bits. And skin would be a part of your meat bit.
Well, technically, flesh is your muscles.
All right, cool.
Technically. But I would count,
Technically correct is the best kind of correct. Thank you. I think that's a Will Wheaton quote.
That's a Futurama quote.
I don't know. I've heard Will Wheaton use it multiple times, and if he likes it, it's good for me.
Yeah, but I think it is because it's from the Futurama episode with the the gray people, and they were like bureaucrats of the universe and stuff, and and then the Fry or someone was pointing out something that's like obviously false but technically correct, and they're like, you are technically correct, which is the best kind of correct, and therefore he like won some court case.
There you go then.
Yeah.
No,
there's a meme of that at least, and that's what. That's why I remember it, because it's a Futurama meme.
Jesus Christ!
Sorry, I've got like an active digestive system at the moment. It's going to come out one end or the other.
There's a toilet here, mate.
You don't need to go to a toilet to burp.
That's true.
Or fart.
Depends on who's farting and what's coming out, man. I mean, you can poison large rooms.
He can fumigate.
You can start a fumigation company. It's
purely organic.
Yeah, Tom's Curries.
Don't worry, Tom. I'm cutting all this out. I'm cutting all this out.
Sorry.
My poor digestive system. Why are you all so cruel to me?
Actually, with that gas, we could probably get to the moon. It's like
we could run a few buses with it at least.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry.
You all.
I'm sorry, Tom.